So, it's with excitement that we go to complete Pig Heart Boy. Now, a lot of bad things have come out of lockdown and coronavirus, but if we have to look for a good thing, we were never going to finish this in the real world. Now we've got the time to. It also does have a link to our Darwin topic, because I mean, evolution, putting pig hearts in people, if that's not evolution, I don't know what is. But this is only going to take us 2 weeks to complete, and then after that, we will then go to a book with more explicit links to our Darwin's Delights topic. So we're picking back up straight after Cam's operation. Literally, he's just about to wake up. We did read about 6 pages of chapter 13. We're going to go back to the beginning of it. I think it makes sense. My accents might be a bit rusty because it's been a while. Although it's not been as long as you think. It's been about 8 weeks. So, and I haven't seen you lot for 4 weeks. So it's not that long, really. Let's go back to Pig Heart Boy, chapter 13, Hurt. Someone was calling me. From far, far away, a quiet, muffled voice. Cameron, Cameron. The voice grew louder and more urgent. It rushed at me like a Eurostar train. Cameron, Cameron. And then I was awake. It was dark. It took a few moments before I realised that my eyes were closed. But I was awake. Cameron, wake up now. Cameron. I was awake. And my chest hurt. Not badly, but it ached. I tried to take a deep breath, but a spear of pain shot through me from front to back. I instantly held my breath, waiting for the pain to ease, which it did. Slowly, I opened my eyes. Dr. Bryce and Dr. Elrich were looking down at me. They wore masks and gloves, but their eyes were happy, more than happy. Their eyes shone with delight. That's when I knew I'd had the operation. I'd made it. I was still here. I smiled and the effort exhausted me. I tried to speak, but my tongue was stuck to the roof of my mouth. And my throat hurt. In fact, my throat was hurting quite badly. I hadn't expected that. I tried to swallow, and my mouth was as dry as Mars. Hello, Cameron? Dr. Bryce beamed at me. Even with the mask over his face, I could see that he was beaming. I raised my hand and put it over my throat. Dr. Bryce nodded. Try not to speak. You've had an airway down your throat, so your throat will be sore for a day or two. My heart's gone. Only then did I remember. Only then did I dare to think it. My old, rubbishy heart had gone, and in its place, a brand new, strong pig's heart. And then it happened. It crept up on me so slowly that I didn't realise that was happening until I was in the middle of it. I was hurting. Well, not so much hurting as aching uncomfortably. My chest ached. My stomach ached. I wanted to cough. I had a headache. My throat ached. I felt sick. There was probably a millimetre long hair on the back of my hand somewhere that was comfortable, but that was about it. I tried to ask for help. I tried to tell the doctors how I felt. My tongue refused to move. The doctors continued to beam at me. We'll let you get some rest now, said Dr. Bryce. And when you wake up again, you can see your mum and dad's. I closed my eyes, and just like that, I was out of it. For the next day, I drifted in and out of myself. At least that's what it felt like. I don't remember too much about it. It just seemed that every time I opened my eyes, someone was smiling at me. Mum and Dad, the doctors, the nurses. I even dreamt that Trudy was smiling at me. Who can remember who Trudy was? Very significant. Probably the most significant character in the book, but that's debatable. And then at last I opened my eyes and I was awake. Really awake and aware. How are you feeling, Cameron? Dr. Elrich was instantly at my side, smiling. I coughed and instantly felt as if my chest was going to come apart. You will have a cough for a couple of days. That's the anaesthetic, I'm afraid. How's your throat? I swallowed hard. My mouth was no longer as dry as before, but my throat wasn't as sore either. Thank goodness. Better, I croaked. Was that really my voice? I sound like a rusty frog. Would you like a little ice to suck on? Yes, please, I said, still croaking. The doctor used a teaspoon to fish a small chunk of ice out of the water jug on the table by my bed. She popped it into my grateful mouth. It was cool and wet and actually delicious. You are doing phenomenally well. You can sit up, and if the tests we run are favourable, Maybe we'll have you walk in a couple of steps tomorrow. I stared at the doctor. She had to be kidding. I'd only just had a heart operation. What was going on? Were they short of beds or something? It's quite common practice. The doctor's smile broadened. She could obviously read my expression. Not long ago, it was standard practice to stay in bed for weeks after an operation. Now it's recognised that that's actually bad for you. We like to get our patients up and about as quickly as possible. Even heart patients, do you understand? I nodded, looking around. I took more of an interest in my surroundings. I wasn't in my room anymore. There were machines all around me, and I had an intravenous strip attached to each arm. Pads on my chest were hooked up to the heart monitor beside the bed. I had what looked like crocodile clips attached to the ends of 2 fingers, and there was some kind of cuff around one of my ankles. I felt like Pinocchio before he had his strings cut. I looked up at the intravenous bags on either side of me. I pointed to the left one. What's in that? I indicated with my head. It contains your anti-rejection drug, said Dr. Elrich. And that one? Dextrose and saline. Huh? Sugar and salt water to make sure you don't become dehydrated. Dr. Bryce entered the room. How are we feeling today? Fine, I shrugged, and I was feeling fine in a peculiarly detached way. Somehow, it was all a bit of an anticlimax. I'd spent so many weeks thinking about the operation and the days leading up to it that I hadn't really given much thought to what would happen afterwards. And now here I was with not much of a clue as to what should or would happen next. We're amazed with your progress. You're doing extremely well, Dr. Bryce told me. Does that mean I can go home soon? I asked. There was no escaping the look that passed between Dr. Bryce and Dr. Elrich. Is something wrong? I asked immediately. Nothing for you to worry about. Dr. Bryce's smile was as wide as it was false. I like that description. I studied him carefully. I thought you were going to be honest with me and not treat me like an idiot, I said, disappointed. Dr. Bryce shook his head slowly. I'm sorry if that's how it came across. It's just that we've had some bad news today. No, not about you or your operation, he added quickly when he saw the look on my face. At least not directly. The doctor paused, took a deep breath, and turned to Dr. Elrich. Janice, could you go and get Cameron's parents, please? What's going on? I struggled to sit further up in the bed. That's a bit dramatic of me, sorry, I was trying to keep it in the story. The bleep of the heart monitor was getting faster, as if I needed that to tell me that I was getting anxious. Mum and Dad came into the room, their expressions grim. Mum was carrying a newspaper. In that instant, I knew what had happened. I did ask all of you to keep this strictly confidential until I'd formally released the details to the media, Dr. Bryce said to no one in particular, which is how I knew that he knew it was me who let it out of the bag. Marlon gave me his word that he wouldn't tell anyone, not even his parents. I couldn't deny that I'd been the one to blab, but I still tried to defend myself. Well, this newspaper speaks for itself, doesn't it? Mum said tersely. Dad shook his head. I thought Erica and John were our friends. I thought of Marlon's mum and dad and all the times we've been back and forth to each other's house. Our 2 families had even toured on the Lake District together. I'm sure that rag made them an offer they couldn't refuse, Dr. Bryce said with disgust. But they must have gone to the newspapers with a story to sell in the first place, Mum pointed out. Daily Press! World exclusive! The boy with a pig's heart inside his body. Today, the Daily Press can exclusively reveal that Cameron Kelsey, above age 14 of Larkin Road, Dilworth in London, with a Manchester accent, has made medical history. In a dramatic 12-hour operation, shot to send waves of controversy around the world, the heart of a pig has been transplanted into the body of Cameron Kelsey. With time running out for the sick child and no likely prospect of a human donor, the only hope seemed to be eminent surgeon and immunologist Dr. Richard Bryce. His pioneering techniques for overcoming rejection between species have opened the way for a new wave of transplant between animals and man. Cameron Kelsey, the teenager from Dilworth, is remarkably calm about being a guinea pig on the frontiers of medicine. Asked about the special problems of using a pig heart, he said, "It's simple, really. The only thing I have to be careful about now is taking my medicine to stop my body rejecting my new heart." His mother, Catherine, said, "Cameron knows the risks. He knows that he faces a lifetime of checkups and anti-rejection drugs, but all he can talk about is going swimming and playing football. Cameron's heart was damaged beyond repair by a viral infection 2 years ago, and his life ever since has been a slow decline punctuated by major crises. When Dr. Bryce approached us, it was a shock, yes, but it was the chance for my son to lead a normal life. I leapt to the chance," said Mrs. Kelsey. Although the idea of transplantation from other species into humans has been discussed and debated for a few years now, this is the first time that such an operation has actually gone ahead. Dr. Bryce has received media attention before when he first presented his opinion that the only way to overcome the shortage in human organs available for transplantation was to look at the organs of other species. No stranger to controversy, Dr. Bryce has long sought to make his name and his fortune in this field. Cameron Kelsey is known to be recovering in a private hospital and is thought to be doing well. Friends close to the family told us that Cameron's parents allowed Cameron to make the final decision. After long and agonizing deliberation, Cameron finally decided that he really had no other choice. "It's simple, really. I had to choose between living and dying, and I chose to live," said Cameron today. "And I'm feeling fine and fighting fit. I'll do the same thing again tomorrow." Cameron continued, "I can't wait to get back to school and start leading the life of a normal boy. I can't wait to swim and run and play football without getting breathless every 2 seconds." Mrs. Sola Shanjay, headmistress of Cameron's school, Ashmead Primary, said, "I knew that Cameron was in hospital for a transplant, but no, I didn't know." Continued on page 4. I stretched out my hand for the newspaper. Mum gave it to me without another word. Just one look at the headline was enough to confirm my worst fears. "Cameron, you're to stay away from all of them, including Marlon, do you hear me?" Mum fumed. "This whole business will now be turned into a 3-ring circus." Dr. Bryce shook his head. "And each of us will be considered exhibits." "Maybe it's just a 1-week wonder," Dad said hopefully. "I'm sure the press will find something else to interest them tomorrow." Both Dr. Bryce and Dr. Elrich stared at Dad in stunned amazement. Mum just looked at him as if he'd lost his marbles. Me? I had other things going on in my mind. Marlon was my best friend. And best friends didn't do that to each other. Friends don't betray each other. Friends could keep secrets. I looked down at the newspaper again. The headline shrieked at me. "I can't understand it," I whispered. "Why did Marlon do it? Why?" And at that moment, I felt more hurt inside than from anything the doctors had done to me over the last few days. Marlon was supposed to be my friend. In his shoes, I would never have told anyone. Never. See, this betrayal, I think, is being portrayed brilliantly by Mallory Blackman, who, disclaimer, we are just using your book for learning, and it is really helping us. We love it. Your friend's motives aren't the issue now. We will have to decide how to proceed from here. Mr. and Mrs. Kelsey, perhaps we could discuss this outside, Dr. Bryce suggested. "No, this concerns me, doesn't it? This is about me, isn't it? Shouldn't I be part of the discussion?" Dad shook his head. "We don't want you to be any more upset than you already are." "I couldn't be any more upset, but don't worry, I'm not about to keel over." Mum nodded slowly, then smiled. "I don't think this is a very good idea," Dad began. Mum shrugged. "Mike, as Cameron said, this does involve him too. And if he feels up to it and Dr. Bryce doesn't have any objections, I don't see why not." Dr. Bryce took a good, hard look at me and then visibly relaxed. "Cameron, as I'm sure you'll appreciate, our first priority has to be to protect you. If we don't do something and fast, the press will be all over your family like cheap perfume." He sounded like he was quoting a line from one of those old black and white detective movies that Nan liked so much. It was so funny peculiar to hear him say something like that I almost smiled. Almost. So what do we do? Asked Mum. We spike their guns, Dr. Bryce replied without hesitation. I'll call an immediate press conference to tell the press exactly what's happened. Do you all have somewhere else to stay other than your house? Dad frowned. Why? Because I think you should all lie low for a while, just until the hullabaloo has died down. Lie low? We're not outlaws or criminals. Why should we lie low? Mum snapped out. Believe me, it's the best thing, Dr. Bryce soothed. It won't be for long, just a month or two. A month or two? Mum wasn't the only one who was shocked. The press can be relentless. No. Mum's voice was quiet and all the more firm because of it. I'm not going to let the press, or anyone else for that matter, hound us out of our house. We haven't done anything wrong. I'm not going to let anyone treat us as if we have. Mrs. Kelsey, I really would recommend we are not moving out of our house, and just as soon as Cameron is fit enough, is going back to school. Mum's heels were well and truly dug in now. I'm sorry, Dr. Bryce, but I think my wife is right. We'd have to face this sooner or later. Surely it's better to do it now and get it over with. Then we can all go back to normal, said Dad. Mr. and Mrs. Kelsey, I know you're underestimating just what a pack of vultures you'll be dealing with. I've had the press coming out of my doorstep before. I know what I'm talking about, Dr. Bryce said sternly. As long as we have each other, we can handle it, said Dad. It'll be a 1 week wonder, and then the whole thing will blow over. Mum looked up at Dad and smiled. For the first time in a long time, they smiled at each other, and I was temporarily forgotten. But I didn't mind. To be honest, it was nice to see it made a change. I think you're both deluding yourselves, and for Cameron's sake, I would urge you to reconsider. Dr. Bryce wasn't about to give up. We'll be okay. Mum turned to smile at the doctor. The sooner we can get back to normal, the better. The doctor shook his head. I'll call the press conference for tomorrow and another when Cameron is ready to go home. He sighed. Are you both prepared to take part in the second conference with me? Dad turned to Mum, a questioning look on his face. Is that really necessary? Mum said. I would recommend it. It's better to throw the wolves a morsel or two than have them devour you alive. Believe me, Dr. Bryce replied. Then we'll do it. Cameron is going to be fine, and that's what I want to tell the world. So when can I go home? I asked Dr. Bryce. If you carry on like this, I don't see any reason why you couldn't go home within the next month. The next month? I say dismayed. That long? Cameron, the worst thing I could do now is send you home before I'm 100% convinced that the anti-rejection therapy is working. Don't forget, this particular type of transplant has never been done before. I slouched back against my pillows, disappointed. All I wanted to do now was go home, then go to school and show all my friends that I was the same as them. I wanted to play football and swim and dance. I smiled ruefully. I guess the truth of the matter was I wanted to show off. But until then, I just have to be patient. So, we have completed chapter 13 after quite a long period of time. So, I can't speak for too long because we're already on 19 minutes and this is going to take me a lifetime to upload. But I'm going to post some questions below. My biggest questions for you are, can Marlon and Cam's relationship be repaired? Your children, I'm older than you, I've got a different opinion. I want to know your thought. You're slightly younger than Cam. If this had happened with you, could that relationship be repaired? My other question I want you to think about is what is going to happen when they return home? Have they made the right choice? Should they have listened to Dr. Bryce? Right, I'll be off as it's 19 minutes and it'll take me forever to upload this. Hope you enjoy it. Another chapter tomorrow. I'm really pleased we're going to this book. I didn't feel right stopping it, and now we've picked it back up and it's like we never stopped. It's gone straight back in. Bye. Hope you enjoyed your first day back of remote learning. Back tomorrow for Tuesday the 21st of April. Woo woo.